Okay. As far as I can tell, I'm here live, and I'm having sound issues. This is not fun. Okay, give me just a second. Okay, I don't know if you can hear me, but did that fix the sound? I need to see some stuff here. Okay, copy. Okay, you can hear me? There's an echo. Okay, I'm trying to fix the echo now. Okay, I ran into this problem last time, and right now I am trying to get Becky here with me. Oh, okay, hey Tammy, I see you. Okay, fantastic beast. I've got Mary, hi. Okay, oh geez, we've still got the sound, the stadium sound again. Oh, okay, well, if it's not as loud as bad as last time, we're gonna go with that. Okay, cool. All right, so it's me in a 100,000 person room stadium, and we've got echoes. So with that in mind, let's have a little fun here. Okay, what I did, and if you don't have the downloads, check the notes at the bottom of this live stream, click the page, probably click it in a separate window so that you don't lose the stream. Pick up your downloads. You have a worksheet, and then you have my demo for the worksheet. And that will help you a little bit in getting figuring out how to use the worksheets, but also maybe in figuring out if you're heading in the wrong direction. And with creating a novel idea, it is entirely possible to go in the wrong direction. Okay, Becky has just posted in chat, I think, that she has questions. Yeah, this stream, Tammy asked, is this stream also available in the classroom? Right now, it is only available on the main discussion forum. I will put it up in the classroom later, but I got a little swamped last night setting everything up, and I figured if I was going to have it in one place, that was the one place to have it. So, let me get a sip of water here. All right. Now, I am going to start taking questions, but before I take questions, I want to give you just a little intro on coming up with a novel idea. And that starts with the fact that ideas that work for novels are not accidents. They are a buildable process. You can set out to have an idea. You can set out to build an idea. Having an idea is this sort of concept that it just springs at you from out of the blue, and it magically appears in your head fully formed, and it's envisioned as being kind of like being pregnant, and it doesn't work that way. It's there occasionally someone will have a story idea that does function, but generally it's for a short story. Novel ideas are different. And the idea that will work for a short story and give you a very good short story is not the same idea that will work for a novel. So I want to very quickly go over the differences between a short story idea and a novel idea, just to kind of get you on the right footing here. A short story idea has a limited number of characters. It has a small plot with a conflict that, even if it is difficult to resolve, can be resolved in a very short period of time. So it does not have a lot of different story arcs bouncing across the page. So you have a main story, and you might have, maybe if it's a longer short story, one or two subplots that feed into the main plot. But with a novel, you have all of that. You have the the main character and the antagonist, whether the antagonist is something like a massive storm or a meteor that's about to hit the planet, or whether it is a genuine person. If it is something like a meteor or something that's about a giant storm, then the antagonist, let me get that right, the antagonist will have minions. It will have human minions that act in negative ways to further the problem that is done by the pending meteor or the pending storm. It will go bigger. It will be about something more important. It's very, very difficult to write a good story about saving the world in 2,500 words. If you have the elbow room of a novel, 50 to 250, 300,000 words, you can tell a big story like that and get it from multiple characters' perspectives and with multiple conflicts and with. And you'll see what I've done if you've got the worksheets. That second download, same place. It's just my writing, and I hope you can read my writing. I try to make it as legible as possible. Then the novel has more characters. It has deeper and more complex problems, which is also known as a bigger and better conflict. It has multiple secondary stories. And this is where your artifact comes in. All of these are supported and fed from a deep, rich setting. And the artifact is not your gimmick. It's not the thing that the novel is about. The artifact is this sort of backwards, sneaky slide in from behind your muse way to develop your world and to grab onto what matters in your world without going in and saying, okay, well, I'm going to build a world. Because a lot of people have a lot of problems with building a setting. And if you have built an artifact, then you have all of the pieces you need to build a setting. And the next 3 lessons in class, we are going to be using the setting you built, sneaking up on it, and this is fun. This is a really fun process because it's not something that you had planned when you built your artifact. It's not something that you thought, okay, well, this is what I'm doing when building your artifact. You thought, okay, well, this is the thing that the story is going to be about. No, that's not it. That's not it at all. It might become part of what the story is about, but it is going to be a much smaller part than you're imagining right now. Because my objective here is to let people get out of their own ways and to break away from established habits that have caused them to fail before. A lot of the folks who are taking this class have tried to write a novel. I've gone through all of every single one of your posts, and I have seen that a lot of you have started writing stories and have had them die in the middle, have had them die at the end, have had them just go flat on you, have lost interest, have had to walk away. This process is designed to fix that. So, from that point, okay, we have a first question. What do you do when your muse gives you 2 completely different, no relation to each other artifacts? Well, you saw my demo there. It gave me 2, and one started with a swiggle, and the other started with the alien artifact. Well, it started with boxes, which is one of those things that when you're sitting in line and you're frustrated and you're waiting for something like the doctor's office or whatever, you just have a piece of paper and you just start doodling. Yeah, well, that's one of the things I doodle is weird little boxes. And that's the thing that it turned into, was a very cool alien artifact. Okay, so anyway, let me see the question again. Oh yes, when you have 2, you just develop 1. You save the other one for later because there will always be another book. And that thing is just going to sit there. It's its little lines. You can use the same process with it, but just do 1 because 2 adds, it will break things. So just 1 at a time. And that's why the one that I developed was the alien artifact, because that was just too cool to pass up on. Okay, so I'm going to take you through some of the answers that I got. Oh, okay. Becky wants to know, how do you keep yourself from developing too far and writing too much in the initial stages? How do you know when to stop? You don't really have to worry about it that much, because as you realize that what you are building is not what you think you're building, then it's easy to kind of walk away from it. Say, okay, well, I've got a bunch of pieces. If you've got 5 or 6 different characters, you've got a number of maybe locations that are indicated in the story, or in your notes. If you've got a couple of different problems, that's enough. That's enough. You don't have to have massive amounts of material here. If I have you, if you are in class, you have the 20-pager. You have the 20 pages of stuff to fill out. That will give you a novel idea. If you're just using this for a story, what you get on the worksheets that I have provided will be sufficient for that. And so what I'm going to do as I go through some of my answers here is explain to you what I would expand on as I am writing these first parts. And I'm going to beg your forgiveness here. Okay, first up, for folks who don't have the worksheets, I'm going to show you how this starts. Okay, and this is what I started with. Over on the left, you see a squiggle that either looks like possibly the front end of a dragon, or an evil face, or the coastline of England. And over on the right, you have my nervous fiddly sitting in a doctor's office waiting for something. And when you are doing your doodles, and that's all these are just doodles. You can use anything for this: markers, pen, pencil. You can use color, black and white. I have my little demo of right here. I'm going to bring you back to the scene. Okay, back to me. And this is my toolkit right here. It's a bunch of Sharpies, with the biggest box of them I could find at the time, with which I build artifacts and stuff like that. So once you have your scribble and you have your doodle, save this, okay? Hole punch it, put it in your notebook, and if you are in class and you haven't found my little note in there where you need to have a notebook, you need to have a notebook, and you need to save all your stuff. So the next thing we've got here is the actual artifacts themselves. And you can see that mine are in color. They don't photocopy that way, but oh well. The make it a thing is where you take your doodle and then you start making it into something that is tangible to you, something you can understand. The thing on the left, that squiggly doodle, I thought, well, that would be really cool if it were a stone set in a ring. So I circled it, and as I was coloring in, I got that the colors on one side were different than the others, and I got some very cool kind of conceptual things about why that could be. And the metal is bluish, so what's a bluish metal? The make it a thing on the right has 2 big red buttons that look exactly the same. Okay, and below that it has a bunch of alien scribbling, and over on the right in the box it has a bunch of tiny alien scribbling that could be a legalese or a warning or things like that. The details part 2 are big writing in non-human script, big red handle in the down position. Let me go back up to this again and show you the big red handle, because something went bad somewhere, wrong. Okay, so that's the pictures, and you can see what I built from my doodles. You do not have to be a good artist to do this. Oh, hey, okay, Becky says I just killed the echo by going to the notes. That's weird. Okay, I'm going to ask for an opinion. Would you rather look at the notes or the scribble and doodle or the artifacts than look at me? Because if that fixes the sound, I'm willing to not, I'll be invisible. That works. I'm going to set it on scribble and I'm going to set it on artifacts until I see what you guys say. Oh, see, Holly? Let's see. Sounds honestly not that bad. All right, rock and hard place pause. Okay, well, let's just go back to me then. And what I'm going to do here is just give you a little bit of what I came up with. And I did these in the approximately half hour before we went live so that I'd be pretty fresh on it, so that I can explain to you not just where these ideas came from, but how they can be expanded out further. Okay, so on your worksheet, and you can be writing while you're listening to me or whatever, do the worksheet so that you can get a feel for this. Because it would be really cool if all of you left here with a brand new story idea today that could actually work for you. And so let's go for that. My artifact, I did the alien artifact, and I'm going to put the alien artifact back up on the screen. I did the thing on the right that is just boxes and buttons and scribbles and things. And here is where that came from, or my artifact came from. It was found buried in the Triassic layer in an undisclosed and quickly secured dinosaur dig in Montana. Best guess, I have that underlined, it had been in the dinosaur's stomach. Best guess, the dinosaur ate both device and the user. Wild guess, the user was poisonous to the dino and killed it. The alien remains were only partially preserved. The device is, when it's discovered, still powered. Okay, so first off, okay, let's see. I'm scooting down questions because we've got a few. Okay, and from that, I'm going to come back here. Okay, do you ever start, Linda says, do you ever start with an artifact to get the story and end up not using the artifact at all in the final story? Also, can the artifact be a part of the setting? Okay, the answer to the first part of that question is yes, absolutely. The artifact does not necessarily show up in the story. The artifact can be dissected down to how it was created and how that applies to the story, to who created it and how that applies to the story, to why it was created and what it is used for, which is why this has to be an artifact, why it can't be a person, why it can't be an animal, why it has to be a thing, and not just a naturally occurring thing, but a thing that somebody else made. It absolutely must be an artifact. But if it's an artifact, then yes, you can dispose of it after you have the story. It can just be this thing that sits in the back that was the tool by which you created the setting, the characters, the conflicts, all of the struggle that your characters go through. And then the second part of that is, can the artifact be a part of the setting? That kind of depends. Let's say your artifact is a haunted house, and part of the setting is set inside of this haunted house. Then yes, because it fits the criteria. Somebody created it, they created it for a purpose, and it feeds your story. The job of the artifact is to feed the creation of the story, to allow you to come up with something deeper and richer and better than just going in and saying, okay, I need to create 5 characters. Okay, and then I need to create a plot. And then you go, okay, plot. This skips around every single bit of that. This jumps you straight into something, into a story. This, by having the artifact, you have a story already pre-built, and all you are doing is being an archaeologist and digging out the story from the artifact. Okay, now we have another question here. Do you recommend coming up with a title early at this stage, or does the concept change so much that it's better to wait until close to the end of the first draft for a title? Okay. I always give it some damn thing as a title. I mean, I will call it something. I've never actually called a story some damn thing, and I might do that now, but I always give it some kind of title. But I know at the very beginning that there is going to be a line somewhere in the story, or a concept somewhere in the story, that as I have written it and as I am going through and revising it, that will give me the title. That will give me this thing that I can say, okay, this is the concept right here. This is the power. This is the intrigue. This is something. My first draft titles are god awful. They're just horrible. I am a terrible titler. And frequently, what happens with me is that when I hand it over to Matt with my god awful second attempt at a title, he'll come up with something just amazing, like Gunslinger Moon, which that was entirely his title. I had come up with 100 different things, and he looked at all of them and just shook his head. And then about half an hour later, he just says out of nothing, Gunslinger Moon, and there it was, and it was perfect. Okay, so, above question by Sarah. Okay, for some reason Skype is skipping around and bumping, so I am missing questions by people. And let's see, Cindy, Linda, Shannon. Okay, I don't have a question by Sarah. Oh, okay. So the artifact can be any size, city or space station or modified planet. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that I do is build my own artifacts in Minecraft. And I've talked about this elsewhere. This is geek deep, nerdy as hell. But I built the Longview just because my right brain wanted to do something it didn't want to tell my left brain about. And I had just finished building Bailey's Irish Station. And the three main ships in my Cadence Drake series, in life-size, full-scale models that you can go in and work through and walk through and open doors and see rooms and all of this. And believe me, I know this is nerdy, but it is a fantastic way to build your artifact. And so I built a Longview. And I had no idea what it was. I just wanted to build one of the slow ships from the prehistory of the settled space, where before Isas Yamamoto had invented the origami point, the transfold navigational device that allows people to move through origami points. And if you don't know the series, that's like, I know that's really geeky, but so I just wanted to see what that ship looked like. So I made it, I started building it out. I did all the math to figure out how big it needed to be to hold the number of people in suspended animation that I wanted to hold. And then I started putting the blocks together. And there was a point where I was hanging in zero gravity and almost absolute darkness with the empty shell of the thing. And I had put lights up all around the inside of it. And I thought, my God, this thing is huge. This thing is just enormous. What happened to it? Why is it empty? Why is it a derelict? And the back of my mind said, oh, that's the right question. And that was when I built the thing. That was the right question. So, an artifact can be anything that people have built, and they don't have to be human people, as demonstrated by the artifact that I'm using as my little demo today. The artifact can be anything built by people for a purpose. Anything. And to get to build that anything gives you not just one story, but I could probably write for the next 100 years in settled space and never run out of stories. And that's only with the artifacts that I've already built. The three spaceships owned by Katie Drake, the Bailey's Irish Space Station, Bailey's, I added more water, sorry. Bailey's Irish Space Station, it's remarkably difficult to say, and the Longview. And yet, I still keep coming up with new ideas for new artifacts, and I have been squelching them because I have things I have to do first. Okay, so another question. Elsie says, could you talk a bit about how an artifact with powers or knowledge of what it wants or what it does differs from a life form? Okay. There is an issue, and I ran into it in my first demo, this is in the actual lesson. This is not in the freebie thing that I put up that I did as an addendum for my students in class. I built an artifact that became sapient. It was supposed to be a weapon. It was a sword built with high technology to control people. And it developed intelligence, unintentionally and unknown to its creators, and decided that it did not want to be the weapon they wanted it to be. This does make things very difficult. There are some tricks you can do to get around this, and if I were going to work with that particular artifact, which I'm not, I don't particularly want to write that story, but if you have created something that can think on its own, that has its own opinion, that has its own ability to do things, to act, you might have to either drop it into the far future or drop it into the far past. And what I would do if I were going to write that story is make this an artifact that was created 200 or 300 years ago and then was lost. And follow the repercussions of what it had been doing, how it was lost, what it was changed, the characters who were searching for it, why they were searching for it, what they hoped to accomplish by searching for it, and end the book with it perhaps being found and destroyed, or found and rescued, or something. I would figure out some way to bring it back at the end or make it relevant, or have it have been destroyed and have the shockwaves of it being destroyed changing the world, so that you don't have what is essentially a character as an artifact. Because I didn't even realize I had done that in the initial lesson, and it does create a problem. And a lot of other people did the same thing. They created artifacts that went sapient on them, or that had volition in one way or another. And it is first time through at least considerably easier to work with a non-volitional artifact that can jump in the middle of your story and change its mind and wreck your story. You need to have something stable, and a volitional artifact is like a wild card. It can jump in and hurt you while you're writing. So at least first time through. If you've written novels before and you want to tackle one of these things, go ahead. If this is your first time through, another artifact and another build would probably be better. All right. Do we have any more questions on that? Okay. While we're waiting for more questions, I'm going to go to the who created it thing. Because with my alien artifact, this is an unknown. And this is something that you can do too, is you can find your artifact and have the artifact be from another place, from another time, from far away, where the truth of the artifact is not known. This instantly gives you a nice tight conflict, because if you don't know what you have, then the possibilities of what it can do can be magnificently dangerous and scary, and a little bit risky, and it gives you bunches of characters. I mean, you'll see that as I go through my development build here. Okay, we do have another question now, but let's see. Ken says, what is your opinion when the worksheets of who, what, when, where, and how go off on tangents? The nice thing about worksheets is that you can pick and choose. You are not obligated to use anything you don't like. You are not obligated to follow any paths that are not what you're enjoying. My right brain did that to me in the big class worksheets, where in the middle of building the artifact, that the sapient sword, the sword that wasn't supposed to be sapient, my right brain also said, ooh, high technology, you can put this in settled space, which was exactly the wrong thing, because I wanted and was focused on building a standalone novel idea, not something to throw into a series. So this comes down to you are the boss of you. And if anything shows up in there that does not fit your intent, where you go in and you say, okay, I want to write a fantasy novel, or I want to write a 500,000 word epic monstrosity, and I don't care what my genre is, or I don't care what the conflict is. I just want to do this big thing and follow it from beginning to end. And then you get something that just doesn't fit with what you're looking at and what you wanted to do. At any point, you can back up. At any point, don't dump your work. Save the work, because at some point you're going to want it. I promise. Some point, maybe not for this project, but at some point there is something in there that is going to speak to you. And if you don't save the worksheet, you're going to go, "Oh man, I wish I still had those." But it's you get to control it. Now, there is like a variant to that. There's a little bit of a coda where you can be too strict in demanding that your muse give you something, and your muse is trying to tell you something with the things it's throwing at you, and you're missing it. The podcast we did, no, never mind. Okay, there's a thing that Becky and I were talking about where I was just struggling for an idea, and one of my characters was working with me, and one of my characters was obfuscating, and this has happened to me multiple times. One of my characters was obfuscating and not giving me any sort of information, just going in the wrong direction every single time. And I finally understood what he was doing. And like I said, this has happened numbers of times, and I have a problem that I'm dealing with right now, and I'm kind of hoping, but I haven't had any light bulb moments yet. And it will happen to me again, where you have an idea, you have a character, or you have a plot point, or you have some direction that your thing is going in that is just not right, but you can't let it go because there is some part of you that's saying, wait a minute, there's got to be a reason for this. So, hang on to that. If you have one of those and it's not, no, that's just wrong for the story. If it's, well, this kind of fits, but I don't know why, and then you hang on to it and you question the character and you ask for more detail and you pursue different routes to the same end. All right, let's see. Justin says, if you have a bare bones idea for a story, should you try and see if your artifact meshes in there or allow it to generate a free idea? Okay, this depends on how much writing experience you have. If you have been writing and publishing stories for a while, and you're comfortable with the fact that you're not going to screw up a good artifact with, trying to squeeze your square peg into the existing round hole, or the square peg either, you can pursue it. If this is a first-time thing for you, this is the reason when in our previous live chat I said, look, if this is new to you, if you have never successfully finished a story all the way to the end, a novel, not a story, but if you have never successfully written a novel all the way to the end, start with a fresh idea, start with a fresh artifact, because you will be trying to save what you will later learn are mistakes. And we get very, very attached to our mistakes. And this is one of those ask me how I know questions where I just totally beat myself to death a couple of times in one book with hanging on to something that I was absolutely certain was absolutely the right direction to go. And it cost me 60,000 words twice in the same novel, deleted. And, novel delete, which is where you cut it all out and you save it someplace else, because 60,000 words. It was the actual length of the book was, when it was finished, was shorter than the length of the 2 chunks that I threw away. And it was because I had my idea and I was going to stick to that idea even though everything was telling me that I had gone in the wrong direction. I was going to do it. And if your artifact is taking you in a direction that is away from the story start that you have, let it go. You can always go back later and write that story. It will still be there in whatever form it's in there now. And you won't forget it, you won't lose it. But it can absolutely crash you if you are trying to learn how to write a novel and trying to save a broken novel at the same time. And it's painful. It really is painful. Okay, let's see. Another question here. Is a prologue a good place to introduce an artifact? I have a deep religious aversion to prologues. I detest them. I don't know where my story starts, and therefore I am going to do an info dump on the reader's head and give them this long, painful description of something that I should be introducing mid-story. There is a Latin phrase, in medias res, which means right in the middle of things. And that is where you start your story. You do not start with 10,000 years ago in the land of Yore, a king found a box, and the box was made of silver, and the silver was magic, and whatever else. Because that is, first off, that says I don't know where my story starts. And second, it gives many, many people, me included, a very good reason to close the book and walk away. If I see a prologue, it is almost the kiss of death for the sale of that book for me, for that author. So, we will, in class, be going through how to start the novel, how to incorporate what you have built into the story and start right in the middle of action without a big info dump, without boring people out of their minds, without dropping back 1,000 years or whatever. That's a later lesson, and that's a long, deep process of walking through and showing. So I'm going to slide right on by that for now. Okay, let's see. Okay. Tips for working. Okay, I have. This is an off-topic question, but because I actually have a really fast answer for it, I am going to answer it. Okay, Shannon wants to know, because of the sheer hour of numbers it takes a novel to go from conception to graduation, do I have any ideas for tips for working ergonomically for longevity? Yes, I do. I started having horrible wrist pain when I was in my early 30s. I mean, just awful. I was wearing splints and everything. And I did a search on the internet. I discovered what's called the Dvorak keyboard, spelled D-V-O-R-A-K, and discovered that I was on Windows at the time, that Windows would let me change my very nice Windows ergonomic keyboard, which wasn't helping me a damn bit, to a Dvorak labor just with a flip of a switch. So I did that. And it took me a month. And I have this all on my blog. I think I blogged this, but it might have been articles. So if you're checking, look for Holly Lyle Dvorak or Holly Lyle typing in a Google search. And you will probably come across both of those articles and what it took for me to switch over from just a regular QWERTY keyboard to the Dvorak keyboard. It was a grueling process. It took me 1 month in which I was just about mute. I live on the keyboard. I answer posts and had a forum at the time and had a bunch of other things, and it was brutal. And to learn it, but once I learned it, man, I fly, and I have never had pain since. And I have written 12-hour days and 10,000 word days, and just a lot, and it has been very difficult, very painful. Prior to that, to work for even a couple of hours, and since then, nothing. Honestly, I have never had my wrists hurt me again. Okay, next thing is Lindsay wants to know, I created the artifact, which fit with your course. I began to think of a dozen artifacts like popcorn pots exploding. Should I apply the same worksheet process for each of them? What I would do, because this is one of those things where when your brain discovers a process it likes, then it just wants to play. You have learned to speak a language that your right brain can understand, and your muse has clicked in here. Your muse has gone, oh, wow, all of a sudden he or she is listening to me, and I get to talk now, so boy, have I got a lot to say. So what I would do is to build out like the first sheet for the artifact with just the basic bare questions, and then save it, because you want only one artifact per story. Like I said, this is a tool for building characters, plot, setting, conflicts, twists, and it's all of these things are embedded in that one artifact, and we're going to be archaeologically digging them out over the next 4 weeks. 3 weeks now. But more than one artifact introduces more than one world. So just, draw them if you like to draw. If the doodle thing is the thing that's working for you, then doodle. If the questions thing is the thing that's working for you, then do the basic questions. But then just save them. Okay, and Shane says, I lost the thing. I just scroll up enough there. Hold on. Okay. Can an artifact for one story show you that there's a second story to be told of a different time and or place? Okay. This goes back to the long view. That one artifact that I made has so far spawned 6 stories. I could keep writing in the long view world, but I want to get back to Katie, and I have to do the Moon and Sun story first because I promised the folks who read it all those years ago that I would. So the next Katie book is on hold, and I am just finishing up The Owner's Tale, which is the last story in the long view. But one good artifact can spawn an entire career, and I built artifacts for every one of the series that I wanted to write. And I had books planned out for years, and every single one of them I got hit by the ordering to the net 3-book deal thing, which was crashing careers left and right. And because I am persistent as hell and was very fast by the standards of the day, which meant that I could do 2 books in a year, I was able to move to a different genre, move to a different subgenre. But yeah, that is I kind of lost my point there. Yes, an artifact can in fact spawn a career and can be the thing that you want to write in forever. And with my multiple artifacts that I intentionally built in the same world, Bailey's Irish Station, all 3 of the Katie spaceships, and then the Longview, which is owned by the owner, who is getting his story now. I have the place that I want to write, and will be happy to keep writing in for as long as I am still writing. And I have other stories. From time to time I get other ideas and I want to pursue those, and they're fun. But this one, this is the one where I want to live. I want to stay here. Okay, let's see. Leader Book says, is it okay that the artifact has become a symbol representing differing things to each character? Absolutely, that's part of what an artifact can do. There are times when your artifact is going to come up, is going to be a part of your story. The Longview is certainly a part of the Longview series, and Bailey's Irish Station and Katie's 3 spaceships are certainly an active and integral part of her series. it's not one of those tricky artifacts where you have to drop back 500 years and punt. So, and the fact that it means different things to different people means that you built it right. It has complexity and conflict built right in. And if you also have a certain amount of some people don't know what it really means, then and if you do know what it really means, then you're into subtext. And subtext is the thing that gives a book feet. Or that gives a novel legs. Let me use a little bit more practical term there. That people will read it and it will mean something to them. If you do a good job of burying your subtext, which again is one of the things that we'll be working on later, if you do a good job of building your subtext, then you write a story that is deeply and powerfully meaningful to you, but you bury the meaning in an allegory, which frees up the reader to take the meaning that he or she needs from it at that time. And I don't honestly don't know how I fell into this process, because I did it with the very first real novel I ever wrote. Now, I didn't do it with my Hearts and Stitches terrible second chance at love romance that took me 6 months to write and 7 years to revise. But with Fire in the Mist, which was my first book, I put subtext in there. And a good artifact will give you subtext too. It will give you a meaning. It will allow you to express your meaning, rather, because your meaning is already in there. You know why you're writing this story, or if you don't, you'll get there by the time we finish the class. And you will get your subtext in there. But the artifact can really, really help you not just find that, but then narrow it down and make it live for the reader. All right. Okay, I was going to go through one other thing here. If we don't have any more questions, it kind of looks like... Okay. All right, so the artifact I have here, my alien artifact that I built for this demo, the people who were like Puzzle Piece Wreck. The question was who created it. And the best guess is that it was the aliens, but they don't know that. I mean, it could have been someone else. It could have been just dropped there from space. It could have... No, I mean, nobody knows. There's absolutely no other place on the planet where this writing has shown up, where there might have been alien remains there, not been identified as such, and they might not be the alien remains that the dinosaur ate along with the artifact. So I was having a lot of fun in here. I was kind of smart-ass with my answers, but the thing is, one of the things, if you read through these answers, if you can read through these answers, hoping that you can read my handwriting, you will see that I did have a smart-ass tone. Frequently, when you are answering the questions, the voice that you get on the sheets as you're answering the questions is going to be very similar to the tone of the novel. If I were going to write this thing, the situations that it spawns, and the question, the thing is the switch is in the down position, and there are two buttons that are both identical and no markings on either button, and what does that mean? And then my brain got really, really tickled at the concept of having this thing that people are fighting over. They have no idea what it does, and it could do anything. It could be a snack machine for aliens. It could be the end-of-the-world device. It could be it could be anything. And it's on, and it's been on since the Triassic period. And it has no visible diminution of the amount of energy that's in there. So I think we actually are starting to run a little longer here. We were trying to keep this at 45 minutes. But I just wanted to say, one of the things to look for in your worksheets as you're writing is that you can sometimes get the tone of the novel too from seeing the voice that shows up in the answers to your questions. This this alien artifact voice would be raw and probably rude and a little crude and smartass and funny and very, very different in a lot of ways from a lot of the other things that I write. Oh, okay, and let's see, I've got something coming in down here. And also, I had a lot of fun today, and thank you for asking great questions. And it was, thank you for turning out and showing up. Okay, and let's see, place. Oh, yes, one more thing. Really important before we go is if you like this podcast and you want to see more of them, please subscribe to my channel. And there is a little bell on the top right-hand corner of your screen, though not on mine, because I'm not seeing the screen you are. And if you click that, then every time I have one of these live things set up, you will get a notice. I think before it goes live, but also possibly, I don't know, earlier than that. Like I said, this is my second one of these now, and I'm still really, really new to the process. So I'm not entirely certain how it works, but I know that you will be notified if you click the little bell. And okay, oh there, I see one more thing, one more kind of semi-question before you go. Do you know the pros and cons covered elsewhere of using a pen name? Okay, that is definitely something for another time. It is a long and complicated issue, and not one that I want to dig into in the last 2 minutes of a podcast or a live stream. So again, thank you very much. I had a wonderful time, and I hope you did too. And this should be alive, stored in the classroom once we're done, and I'll make sure that it's in the How to Write a Novel classroom too, along with the second downloads, which I have not yet added to the classroom. I just threw them out as quickly as I could here because I finished them just before we went live. Okay, and I will see you guys soon.